back to this.
Pressing record.
Pressing record. So, okay, we're back in. So I was just about to go into this whole idea of artifacts, because again, you can do a lot of the editing of the ePortfolio just by editing those text boxes and writing your written reflections. But when you need to add something beyond just a written reflection, like again, maybe it's an audio file, a video file, an image, different kinds of media, basically, you would do that by adding an artifact. So I'm going to go back again to the ePortfolio space. And I'm going to go back to my items again. And as I was about to do before we got cut off, I'm going to click this add button. When I click on add, there are different things I can add to an ePortfolio. The first is a reflection. And I mean, a reflection often functions the same way as your reflections on the competencies function. We've just set things up so that instead of adding a new reflection, you do as I showed you before, and you simply go in, edit that text box, and just type your response directly underneath. So you can actually just outright ignore reflections. You don't have to deal with them for your project here. Links as well. I mean, you could just add a link to an external web page, but at the same time too, if you want to link to something to show how maybe a web page helps to solidify your thinking about a competency, you can add that link just by editing the text set for your competency reflection and paste the link in there too. So again, I don't think that's necessarily useful for you. But the most useful piece then is this third option, that's a file upload. So when I click on file upload, it's going to work by saying, okay, well, what do you want to add as a file? And I would just say, well, I want to upload something. I'm going to go to, and you might not be able to see this piece. Are you able to see this, Alice? If you go to the webinar? So I just want to make sure you can see this other window. It looks like you can. Good. Okay. So I'm just browsing my computer now, trying to see, okay, well, what do I want to add? And I'm going to choose, for example, a picture of a puppy dog, because why not? And I'm just going to add the puppy dog picture. And when you add the picture, you add the file, you're basically doing a certain number of confirmation steps. So I'm just confirming, last image I want to upload. You might want to choose a name, because that name will show up on your ePortfolio to tell you kind of a caption what your image is. So,
question about a link.
Okay, let me just read this question quick. So, what if a link is something we have created? Does it make sense to use a link there? Create a concept map for a course and add it as a link. Yeah, so if you have a link to something you created in an external web page, for example, I guess two options would be, one, maybe you'd want to kind of print screen that concept map, for example, save it as an image, and then attach it that way. An alternative could be, yes, to just take the URL to that concept map and paste that URL into your competency reflection. The third option is, depending on what you're using for some things like a concept map, a lot of the programs these days online have what are known as embed codes. And an embed code can actually embed that concept map or other kind of files directly into a text box. I'm going to show you that in a second with how you might embed like a YouTube video, for example. So that process will be the same for other kinds of web-based tools like a competency map or like a concept map, for example. So I'll get to that in a second in any case. Back to the artifact going this way, however. So again, I want to give my item a name, my artifact a name. I'm just going to save that. And as soon as I save that, then it's just basically going to confirm, okay, yes, you have an image up there, it has a name, and then I just save and close it. And the way this ePortfolio works, and this is one of the major things that you have to kind of wrap your head around with this ePortfolio tool, is that there are kind of two pieces to the ePortfolio tool. On the one hand, you have your presentation, and the presentation is that outwardly facing depiction of who you are as a social worker. And that's where you're posting all your competency reflections, you're talking about your capstone project progress, who you are as a person. You're doing all that kind of work and showing that in the presentation. The other side of things, however, is that My Items page. And by default, everything you put into My Items is not viewable by anyone except yourselves. So it's kind of like your working space almost. You add artifacts, you add evidence of who you are as a social worker, as a learner, you add it to the My Items page, and then only when you're happy with it, only when you want to actually share it, do you go through the second process, which I'm going to show now, of adding that artifact to your actual capstone page. And that's the important piece to note. You have to first add things to My Items, and then when you're satisfied with that, you move it over to the presentation, to the actual portfolio itself. So I've added that puppy picture. I'm happy with it. So when I'm good with that, I would go back to My Items by just clicking back there, or by going back and clicking on the ePortfolio space. I can see now I have this artifact here. Again, it's going to show what it is with the name of it. But again, right now it's not in the presentation itself. So let's add it to it. To do that, I'm going back to the presentation, back to my Capstone portfolio, back to the drop-down arrow to edit it again. And then when I'm here, I'm going back to the content layout. That's my main working space in the ePortfolio. And from there, I simply choose, okay, well, where do I want that to go? Maybe that's part of the About Me page. Maybe that's an image, not of a puppy, but of yourself that you want to add there. And when you want to add something there, you'll see here this Add Component button. That's on any page. So that's on the pages with the competencies. That's on the Capstone progress pages. Every single page has this Add Component button. When I click on that, it's going to say, okay, well, what do you want to add? Do you want to add an artifact, a reflection, another text area? In your instances, it's almost always going to be just another artifact, something that you added as a piece of evidence that you now want to add to the presentation itself. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want to add an artifact. It's going to let me choose then, okay, based upon all the things you've added to my items, what do you want to actually add to your presentation? Again, I'm just saying, well, I added the puppy picture. I want to add that to my presentation now. So I click the check mark box. I click Add. And you're going to see that it will load up, and it's going to be embedded directly in there. Now, you have one option here, which is to actually enable comments on individual artifacts, which if you add things to the About Me page, for example, and you want people to actually comment directly on that picture, you can do so. If, however, you're adding an artifact to a competency page, there's already comments enabled on that page, so you can just ignore that completely. But as soon as I add that to this page here, it's in place. If I go back to view my presentation now, let me just share the screen again. So you're seeing my presentation again. If I go to my About Me page now, you'll see that that picture is simply showing up directly on that About Me page. So again, it wouldn't have shown up there before as I just added it to the My Items page in my ePortfolio. But because I've done this process now of adding it to my items, and then going to my presentation, adding it directly where I want it in the presentation, now it's visible. And now it's indeed visible by anyone in the project or in the MSW Capstone project course itself. So basically, any one of your colleagues in your cohort this year can now see that thing. So I mean, that's one of the main things, is that just being wary of, okay, when I add stuff here, making sure that you do indeed want to actually share that with one another. Now there is a method, however, to say, well, okay, I mean, I want to add it now, but I don't necessarily want other people to see it right yet. So let me just go back to the presentation now. And let's just pretend that, okay, well, I mean, that thing is in place, but I don't actually want people to see the kind of work that I'm doing on, say, my About Me page right now. That's kind of a work in progress. I want to show it eventually, but not quite yet. And if you ever want to hide one of the pages of your ePortfolio for whatever reason, and you have the option to do this, you're just, again, always looking for this drop-down arrow, give that a click, choose the page properties, and from there, there's this Hide This Page button. When I click on that and save it, what we'll see here is this little kind of closed eye symbol. That means that, yes, you can see that it still exists, but now no one, and that means your instructors can't see it, your colleagues can't see it, absolutely no one can see that page now except yourselves. And therefore, if you want to then make it visible again, same idea, page properties, and then simply say, well, I want to unhide the page, save it again, and now that page is indeed visible to everyone else again. So it's just a matter of, I mean, the biggest thing I think with the ePortfolio is realizing that process of add to my items, add to the ePortfolio where you want it, and then if you still need to kind of have things in almost a draft stage, hide the page until you're ready to show it with everyone else. So again, same kind of idea. I'm going to go back to my items and add a different kind of thing. So I'll go back to my ePortfolio space. I just want to demonstrate this another time just to make it as clear as possible. I'm going to go back to my items. This time I'm going to add, again, another file upload. Again, I mean, I looked at reflections and links. Those are both not really useful for you. Same thing with web document audio recording as well. I really would just ignore those for the most part, and I would always just keep adding a file instead. So I'm going to do another file upload. This time, and again, it's going to show me, okay, what do I want to upload? I want to upload something. This time I'll just share a video clip again, because video clips are absolutely fine to add as well. So I'll add that way. Same idea, it processed it. So I'm going to say add. Then I just have to kind of confirm what I'm doing. I click next again. Just like I did with the puppy dog picture, I just have to give it a name. This should be a name that is descriptive so other people know exactly what you are trying to share with them. I click save again. This will now basically just confirm that, yes, the video is added to my items, so I can save and close. And if I go back to my items again now, it will again show up here. It's always going to kind of order things chronologically from the last time it was updated. So it's going to be at the top of your My Items page. Alice?
How do we add a YouTube clip?
Yeah, so that's going to be the next piece. So let's do, perfect. Well, I'll just do this video last. And I would say if it's anything that you can ever add as a YouTube clip, it's typically a lot easier and better to just add it as a YouTube video or a Vimeo video, for example, rather than like an actual MP4 file. But if you need to add it this way, this is how you add it this way. So again, it's showing up in my items here. So same process yet again. Find your presentation, drop down arrow to edit the presentation. Now we're going to find the content layout page again. Maybe this time this is a video that is, again, actually evidence of competency number 4, for example. So I say, okay, well, I want to add it here. In this case, there's already 2 items here. That's absolutely okay. I want to add yet another component. I want to add, again, another artifact. It's going to bring me back to my list of artifacts. Now the video is the most recently updated one. It's at the top of the page. I say add. I select it and I add it. And it shows up right there as well. So if I now, again, go and view my presentation, let me just share the screen again with you quickly. And I go down to competency number 4 now. Again, I have the competency, I have a list of comments. At the bottom, I have the video. And this is why I say that it's ideal if you can have videos that are embedded in YouTube or Vimeo, because those videos, as I'm going to show you now, will actually load up and be playable right away. When you have to add a video as a file to your ePortfolio, it will require someone who's viewing your ePortfolio to actually download that video, which is, I mean, it's absolutely fine. They can download it just as well. But again, if you want kind of the ease by which someone can just view it and look at what you're doing, that system isn't as good, basically. It works absolutely fine for images, and I would encourage you to do images that way. But for actual video files, whenever possible, the YouTube approach or the Vimeo approach tends to be best. So let's go show how you would do that then as another form of actually adding content to the ePortfolio. So I'm back on the main page now. Let's again choose another competency. Let's pretend that I want to work on competency 3 now. And for competency 3, there is a YouTube video, for example, that is perfect at explaining how I'm thinking about this competency. So just as you would go to actually start reflecting on it, again, I'm finding that text set here. I'm clicking the drop-down arrow. I'm editing that text set. That is pulling up what is currently the competency with this spell out for you with a question prompt. If you now want to add some kind of embedded YouTube video here, what you would do is first find that YouTube video, and I have one loaded up here that should hopefully work. So let me kind of start from the beginning. You would pull up the video on YouTube, and if you've ever used embed codes before, you'll know how to do this step, but if not, I'll just walk you through this as well. So you found a video on YouTube that you want to share. If you go down a little bit underneath your YouTube video, there is the share button down there, and when I click on share, it's going to allow me to click on this embed code, and you need an embed code. This is why I said for the person who had the question about a concept map, for example, a lot of programs these days that are primarily web-based programs have embed codes that allow you to take what you're working on and embed it into a different web page to show just as is. So YouTube videos do this, Vimeo videos do this, a lot of concept mapping tools that are done online do this as well. Even things like a Prezi video, for example, if you do a Prezi presentation, you can actually embed that Prezi directly into your ePortfolio so it plays within the ePortfolio as well, depending on what you want to do. But I'm going to take this embed code just by clicking on it, Control-C to copy it, or however you do it with Macs, I have no idea, but you want to copy that embed code. And if I go back to my presentation now, again, I'm looking at the text as it is. It's in this editing phase right now. What I can do is click on, you'll see in this top left-hand corner, the very first button there is called Insert Stuff. It's aptly named because I can insert anything, basically. But when I click on Insert Stuff, it's going to give me some options on, well, what do I want to insert into that ePortfolio? And the third option here is an embed code. When I click on that, it's simply going to give me this empty text box. And this is where you just want to copy paste it in here because you can see the data in here doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's why these web pages just provide that for you naturally. So I say, okay, yeah, I want that embed code. I click on Next, and it's just going to process it relatively quickly. And you can see it's kind of giving you a preview of what it will look like. If you're happy with it, you just say Insert, and it's going to show up. It's going to show up exactly where you wanted to put it in that text box. So for me, my cursor is at the very top of that text box, so it's even putting it directly above the core competency. If my cursor, however, was down below and I then click that Insert Stuff, it would show up underneath. For now, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to click Save and Close. So again, it's saved that now. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click View My Presentation again. I want to see what I've done. So let me share that screen with you yet again. Give me 1 second. Share the screen. I'm going to go back to, what was I doing? Core Competency 3, I believe. You can see now, rather than having that video, something I have to click on and download, now I can just click on that link directly in here, and it will load that YouTube video and actually play that YouTube video directly within your ePortfolio. So what I always think is that if you, in some cases, yes, there might be a YouTube video, a Vimeo video, some kind of video online that you think is already a good reflection of what you want to talk about. Then you can just embed it this way. If, however, this will go for your final capstone project as well. If you want to produce something, however, and you want to share that, I think it's better and easier in that case to film your video, produce it yourself basically, but then rather than adding that video as a file to your ePortfolio page, if you can add it to YouTube already and just make it something that's only like not searchable so that no one can actually view it unless they have the link already, then you can simply embed that YouTube video directly into your ePortfolio, and then it's viewable by just clicking the play button and it just plays automatically. It's a ton easier, a lot more user-friendly for people viewing your ePortfolio, and it just saves all that downloading and clicking and whatnot. So I tend to think that's the best approach. At the same time, however, you might have concerns about your videos being online, even if they're not searchable on YouTube. And in that case, again, if you have to add it as a file, that's absolutely fine. You can add it as a file. But that's kind of the process for doing that. So I'm just going to share my other screen again. So that's kind of the main way in which you will actually interact with the ePortfolio and add different things. Again, you'll be doing that for your About Me page, and you can do that relatively soon, right? You can go into that About Me page. You can add an image of yourself in the My Items page and add it in there afterwards. You can, if you want to, if I just add another component again, you might want to, in this case, just add a text area where, and if I click Add Text Area, you give it a name. Again, you can just say About Me. And there as well, you can just type a little, biography about yourself as well, and save and close that, and that will show up directly underneath the About Me page or in the About Me page as well. You can do it that way if you want to, but you have, you can play around with the About Me page certainly as your kind of entryway into the ePortfolio to see how it works, and then as you start working your courses or with your own practical experience, you can then, as you go through the program, start to make updates to your competencies. Start to reflect on those. Soon enough, you'll be asked to start working on your capstone project and start recording the progress there as well. You can do that here too by either, again, the capstone progress works the same way. You would edit that capstone progress text field, and same idea. There's placeholders here where you would then just type directly in here, what are you working on? So you have those different options by which you can start to work on the presentation and add stuff to your portfolio as you go along. So that's kind of all the working with the ePortfolio that you need to know about. Now, another part of it, however, Alice?
How can we add comments to the About Me page?
Yeah, exactly. So that was going to be the next piece. So if you want to add comments about someone's work on the About Me page, so there's, by default in the template right now, there's no embedded comments directly in there. So what you would need to do if you want people to actually add comments about your About Me page, you want to have some kind of artifact in there that you can allow comments to be enabled. So again, when I added that picture of the puppy dog here, you can see there's this comments enabled button. When I click on that, now people can comment on that, and by design, I guess, as well, comment on other elements of the About Me page. But if I just have a text box in there, there's no way to comment just on a text set. That's just a weird intricacy of Learn's ePortfolio system, I suppose. So you want to make sure you have some kind of artifact in there, and then just click that comments enable button. That's only going to be the case with the About Me page. All the other pages in the ePortfolio have comments enabled by default. So it's just that About Me page, and that's maybe something we can change for the next time. But if you need something and you want comments on the About Me page, just make sure you have some kind of artifact in there, again, image, video, whatnot, and then make sure that the comments are enabled so that people can indeed comment on that. Now, that process of commenting and finding other people's ePortfolios, I want to spend a bit of time looking at as well, because I mean, that's that's kind of what you need to work on it. That's the one half of the ePortfolio. I mean, the other half, or the other third, or however you want to kind of define things, is actually viewing what your colleagues are working on and commenting on their work as they go about in the course. So I'm going to go back to the ePortfolio at the very top of the page. I'm going to be back at that dashboard view, and I'm going to go to this Explore tab now, because the Explore tab is going to allow me to see what other people are doing. And I'm going to try to work with yours, Alice, to see if I can comment on yours. You don't have anything in there? Well, we'll see anyway. We'll see how this works. But let's pretend Alice had something in this ePortfolio page. So I want to view it. And to view Alice's ePortfolio, I just click directly on it. And again, I'm going to share that with you. And again, right now, Alice's is just a default one, right? There's nothing to it right now. But let's pretend there was something we want to work on. Let's pretend we wanted to look at how Alice addressed core competency number 1. We'll pretend there's a brilliant reflection there that we want to comment on and say, oh, what a great job, Alice. You'll see down here, there's this comments field. Right now, it's absolutely empty. But this is what it would look like for you as well. And you'll see there's this blue add comment button below. When I click on add comment, it just opens up this little window here that is rather simple. It's just a text box, and you would type in here, you know, great work, Alice, exclamation marks. And as soon as I click add, then that comment is immediately added to Alice's ePortfolio. So if I scroll down again, I can see, and again, I'm here as a test student, your name would be associated with your comment, just so that you know who said what. Nothing's really anonymous when it comes to comments here. It's meant to be open, so you just have to be sure that your comments are constructive, right? But it says who you are, it says when you posted it, and it just says your comment below as well. And it takes unlimited comments, so a lot of people can comment on your work. I think it kind of takes the first 5 and then it rolls it over, but you as the ePortfolio owner have a running list of all the comments that have been made about your ePortfolio. But it's the same idea. For any other competency, I would just click on the competency. Again, each competency page is set up this way so that they all have a comment field, and you just choose what you want to comment on and add your comment that way as well. So I'm going to just go back to my main page then. And again, when I'm in that Explore page, if I need to find a specific person's ePortfolio, I would just, again, type in the Explore page. I'm not going to find someone else's past work because that's their own work. But if you know one of your colleagues in your current cohort has something you want to look at, you just search for their name. That will, and when you press enter, they will pop up. And the exact same thing that I did with Alice's, I just click directly on it. It will load up the ePortfolio. I find what I want to comment on by clicking on the page I want to comment on. And then I click that add comment button, type in my comment, and I'm done basically. So the commenting feature is relatively simple. The main thing you want to be working on is just how do I design an ePortfolio that is reflective of what I'm actually learning in my program, and making sure that you're keeping up to date with ways in which you address these competencies. So that's the main. I think that kind of the 2 main pieces of your ePortfolio project are the creation and the adding page, or the adding pieces of it, and then afterwards okay, what are my colleagues working on, the searching, the commenting feature as well. I guess one of the final pieces I want to touch on then is the sharing feature. So again, by default, your ePortfolios are shared between all of your colleagues in your current cohort. So every single one of you can see everyone else's ePortfolio right now. Now there will be a time near the end of the program where you're going to actually want to share your ePortfolio with external reviewers, so that you can show them what your ePortfolio Capstone project was. They can give you feedback on it. At the same time, too, you can actually share these ePortfolios with anyone, basically. It doesn't have to just be amongst colleagues, amongst external reviewers, amongst instructors, but you might want to showcase this with an employer, for example, or with a friend even. I don't know. But you have the ability to share your ePortfolio with whoever you need to. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my items, and I'm going to find my ePortfolio, my Capstone ePortfolio. Again, I'm going to click this drop-down arrow. Instead of edit this time, 2 options down is this share button. When I click on share, it's going to say, okay, well, who do you want to share this with? Again, by default, it's going to show, I'm just sharing it with my current course, basically. But if I ever wanted to add additional user groups, I can do that here. Now, before I do that, I should even say as well, below here, I believe this is turned off by default, but you can open up your ePortfolio to be viewable by absolutely anyone with this URL. So every one of your ePortfolios has its own specific URL that you can just copy and paste and share anywhere, and that will load up your ePortfolio. Now, the difference there is that that will not allow people to comment on it. They can view it, but they can't add comments to it. So if you need someone to actually view it and add comments to it, you go by this additional step, which is, well, I want to add someone to the ePortfolio space. When you click on that, it's going to take a bit of time because it's basically showing you every single student at UW who could share it with you. Now, you don't want to do that, obviously, but if I scroll down, it's going to say, well, I want to add an external user by email address. All you'll do then is type in the email address for that reviewer or for someone else. And below there as well, there are permissions. The default is that they can see comments and add comments. I wouldn't change that. I mean, you could allow them to even like edit the ePortfolio, but again, I don't think you should go down that route. But as long as you let them see comments and add comments and type in their email address, that external reviewer will get an email saying, hey, would you like to look at my ePortfolio? They'll click sure. They'll create a quick account and learn, and then they can view your ePortfolio, add comments to it, view everything that you've been doing, and really give you feedback on the ePortfolio itself. So that's one of those kind of final steps that you certainly don't have to worry about until, I mean, what, next August? June, July, August next year. But it's just so that you know of it now. You can return to this later by watching the recorded video later of this. But that's kind of going to be your final step after you've done this entire Capstone project, is share it with the people who need to see it.
Especially external reviewers.
Especially the external reviewers, right? Like, I mean, that will be your task, is that when it comes time to share with them, you're going to have to find out their email address and type it in here and ensure that they can see it that way, because it's your ePortfolio. I mean, one of the things that I should have probably said initially is that these ePortfolio spaces are 100% your spaces. And that's, again, why, you know, anything you add to it, you have complete control over. Nothing in here is owned by Alice or someone else in the MSW program. It's all your space. So you also have to then take ownership of who can actually view it, aside from the people in your cohort. So it will be your role later on next year to share with that external reviewer. But for now, what you have is automatically shared with one another, so you can still see what each other are doing and add comments as you go and that kind of stuff. Yeah, question. Is there a way to find out what competency a fellow student has worked on other than opening every competency? So yes and no. I say yes and no because, well, no, I'm going to say more no than yes, actually. When I went to this ePortfolio page, that initial kind of dashboard view, what that is showing me is every single update that anyone in your cohort has made to the ePortfolio. Now, again, because what you're doing when you reflect on competencies is just editing that text set. Excuse me, the ePortfolio system doesn't really keep track of that stuff. What it would keep track of is a new comment being added, but that, you know, a new comment being added doesn't necessarily mean that a new competency has been added. Those comments might come to an older competency. So at the end of the day, not really. I mean, you would be able to see whose ePortfolio was updated most recently, and then based upon that, you might be able to figure out, you might be able to at least kind of dive in and see what might have been updated, but you can't get an easy view of what competency has been updated most recently. You kind of have to do a bit of digging, unfortunately, or I don't know, maybe it's something that you do kind of at the end of each term and you kind of see what's been going on rather than trying to keep up to date with every single thing. That would be my recommendation. I just noticed now I got this little error saying, or warning saying I have 10 minutes left in the free one. Let's try to finish this one up in 10 minutes so we don't have to start a new one again. So, so I've gone through everything I wanted to get through, so we'll go with some other questions then. Another one here. Which one am I doing? Can we delete items? Yes, you can. If I go back to my items here, I can certainly delete items from my items, right? That video that I added, maybe I don't want it anymore. So I click the little drop-down arrow there, and I just say delete, and that will, you just confirm I want that gone, and that will delete it right away. Same thing in the actual ePortfolio itself, though. Again, I'm editing that. Maybe I put something in there, and I'm not happy with its placement. I go back to the content and layout, and I find out what I want to delete. And this is where a word of caution, when you delete things like a text set, for example, it's impossible for us to put that back in there. It's going to require you to do a bit of work. That we can share with you what should have been there, but we can't go back to your ePortfolios and add stuff afterwards. So be very careful about what you do delete. But if I were to go back to, what's one that I did? Comments Lead 4, I think I added something there. Maybe not. Comments Lead 1, maybe. I'm just trying to find the one that I had added a video to.
Is it 3?
Was it 3? I'm just going to go for the first few. Let's try 3. Let's go to About Me. I know there's something about me. So let's pretend that that picture of the puppy dog no longer is relevant. Same idea, drop down arrow, and just remove from layout. You're not deleting stuff from your ePortfolio here. You're just removing it from the presentation view. You would then delete it permanently from the My Items page. But I just say I want to remove that from layout, and I just confirm I want it gone, and you can see it's just not there anymore. So yes, you can certainly delete stuff. Other questions that are coming in? No?
Some concerns about taking time to go through all of the students' competencies.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you want to obviously use your time effectively. Certainly spend the majority of your time working on your own capstones, and then if you have time to look through others, certainly go for it. We think it's a useful thing to be able to do, and certainly the past cohort had expressed it as well. It was nice at times to be able to see what other people are learning and how they're learning and how they're making connections. So, you know, like the easiest way to try to get at that again is to use that ePortfolio dashboard page, see whose ePortfolio was updated most recently, and then try to figure out from there, well, what actually was updated. I mean, is it ideal? No, but it might be one approach to try to get at that.
Can you just review that the progress reports are due at the end of the semester?
Just say that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those progress reports, each of those progress reports that you saw in the ePortfolio are due at the end of each semester. So let me just, again, just go back into that, back to my content layout. You'll see here those 3 pages, Capstone Progress 1, 2, and 3. So that's one of the things you will have to obviously keep track of is updating those when it comes time to update them. And again, as I said, same process, click the drop-down arrow, edit it. And certainly for the first one, as you can see here, you'll be asked to give your top 3 ideas and talk a little bit about how these ideas link to the theory, practice, competencies, and social work values. But you'll be doing that at the end of each semester, I guess.
And the instructions for when they're due
right.
are in the capstone.
That's exactly, yeah. As Alice was just saying, if you heard that, all the instructions about due dates and stuff are in that MSW Capstone course. So again, make sure you're interacting with both components of that course or that of your program, basically. Both that Learn page that has a number of resources, again, down here with the capstone description and whatnot, but also by accessing that ePortfolio too.
Another question?
Let's see. Do we contact you if we encounter technical challenges in the future? I think the best approach is probably, I'm going to say, to contact Alice first. And then in that case, Alice knows quite a bit about this too, but if there are things that she can't figure out, she will get in touch with me, and we'll make sure that your issues are resolved quickly. I think we did a pretty good job last year with the first cohort using this to resolve those issues quickly. And at the same time too, we've picked up on a number of things that we know are potential issues. So, but yeah, if something comes up that you cannot figure out because of the instructions aren't clear, or you can't find in the recorded webinar, or we just didn't cover it, just let Alice know. She'll let me know. I'll email you back. We'll figure it out for sure. Yeah. Looks like we have 4 minutes and 39 seconds left. So any questions quickly before they cut us off again? I'm not going to try to create another webinar. I will wait patiently and see if anyone types in anything. Yeah, anything else that we're missing?
Thank you, very helpful.
All right, well, that's good. A thank you is good. Yeah, I mean, I think you have the tools that you need to do everything that you need to do for your MSW projects. I guess the only last piece of advice would be to get started sooner than later, especially with that About Me page. Just try it out, right? Like, you can't do anything too wrong. Just don't go around deleting things randomly and you'll be okay. But just try to add something there. Add a file, add a picture of yourself, add some text about yourself, and just see how it works, right? If you can figure out that first step, all of the pieces just come and they fall into line quite easily. But I mean, yeah, part of this ePortfolio tool is just diving in, clicking around, figuring out, okay, that's how that works. I mean, I watched it, but that's how it actually works. And I don't know. To me, it does come together relatively quickly. And although it might look daunting from all the steps that we showed you today, it does actually make sense once you get around in it. So I see lots of people just saying thank you. So if you have any other questions, just let us know. We're happy to support you any way that we can. Alice, any final words? You can say hi quickly. Say bye to everyone.
Thanks to everyone for joining us today, and we hope we answered some of your questions. Please feel free to email us. Email me first, and I'll follow up with Kyle. And it is a fun process, but there are a number of new steps to get involved in with your ePortfolio. But yeah, please follow up and email me. I'm also available for a phone consultation if you'd like to talk in more detail, and I can walk you through your page individually. Thanks so much, and take care.
Bye, folks.
Awesome.